come on. Ah, oh. Hello, welcome to the Film Addict Show. I am your host, the Film Addict. I just got done watching, Shame. Shame. Let's talk about the movie Shame tonight. Shame. Shame. What am I? I'm not doing a cowboy movie review. No, Shame, directed by Steve McQueen, co-written by Steve McQueen, starring Michael Fassbender and Carey Mulligan. I bought the movie 12 Years a Slave, but I wanted to watch Shame first because I wanted to get the feel of Steve McQueen's style, his directing style, writing style, filming style, and all that good stuff. So I watched Shame first, and I liked it. I don't know, I thought it was really good. It was very interesting, very, pretty out there. It being an NC-17 rating movie, there is a very decent amount of sex in the movie, as it is about a man who's dealing with his own demons of his sex addiction, hypersexuality, living in New York City. He's a successful businessman trying to maintain a professional business life while trying to maintain a very strong sexual life, and Michael Fassbender plays Brandon, and Carey Mulligan plays his sister Sissy, who unexpectedly comes to stay with him for a couple of days. Now, Steve McQueen is an interesting character. He really is. I mean, there, there were some moments in the movie that I just really questioned what was going on. Like, it seemed that Brandon is very bitter towards his sister, and I'm just thinking, why is he bitter towards her? Why does he seem upset at her all the time? We don't get much exposition about their history of their past together, and I kind of would have liked to see that more because I wanted to make more sense of the relationship between them. But there, and also there, and then so Brandon, he is on. So we see Brandon on the subway. He sees a woman who has an engagement ring, who has a wedding ring, and he's very attracted to her, and he wants to pursue her, but when they get off the subway, and she disappears, never to be seen again. And he to combat his sexual addiction, he jerks off in the bathroom of his work, and indulges in prostitutes and tons and tons of pornography. And in a way, it's showing that those are his own personal demons. He doesn't wear his hypersexuality as a badge of honor. He doesn't. He tries to hide it from everyone around him, tries to keep it secret, hence the title of the movie, Shame. It's his shame that he's distant about. He doesn't like to, and he doesn't really like making emotional connections with any other woman. All he wants is a physical, he just wants sex. That's all he wants. And that point is made more clear when in the movie he tries to go out with one of his coworkers that he actually really likes, that he doesn't just want to have sex with, he actually wants to try and have a relationship with her. So they go on the date, and on that date, I have to admit, they go to the restaurant, and they probably had the most dumbest waiter I have ever seen in the movie. He's just like, what do you want to eat? And he's like, oh, and then the guy's just like, well, why don't you have the lamb? It's very good. And then, okay, well, that's a food suggestion, good. And then the guy asks, how would you like it made? And and Brandon says medium, and the guy says, well, it's better when it's just pink. It's suggestion, sure, but that's kind of like forcing your opinion on a customer. So I was just like, worst waiter ever. So, but interesting about the date is they have a good time and everything, and he really wants to be with this woman. He really likes her, and so they next day at work he make out and they decide to skip work and go to a hotel and try to have sex. And but the thing is he couldn't maintain an erection. Get he couldn't get off, and things were getting really heated. Like she took off her bra and she looked like she had a nice pussy. Um, and he just couldn't maintain erection. It's because he couldn't he he couldn't have sex with someone that he actually liked, that he was emotionally connected to. It he couldn't have sex with. But then like after she leaves, she understands. She leaves. She says it's okay. You don't be hard on yourself. And then once she leaves later that day, he just has random sex with a prostitute. And he seems to get off more when it's only merely physical, which is a very interesting character development slash flaw of the character of Brandon. Now, Sissy um, doesn't only really she's dependent on others, kind of almost like a Blanche Dubois kind of character, but not as tragic. Um, and he feels that Brandon, the character, feels that her coming in and living with him is invading his privacy. He says that he feels cornered with her whenever she's around, and it kind of says that that means is like he feels trapped, that he can't truly be himself when his sister is there. He feels cornered. He can't indulge in his desires and his fantasies, and so he gets mad at her and calls her a victim. Stop playing a victim. You're a burden. I want you to leave. And he just wants to be as disconnected from her as possible, um, so that he can indulge in his fantasies, and so he can and she fucks his boss. She has sex with his boss, and the thing that really bothered me about that is like, I mean, good. It makes the story moving, but like he does show that he feels uncomfortable with it all, but he doesn't bring it up with his boss the next day. He just goes, "Hey man, what's the deal with having sex with my sister last night while I was there?" Like they weren't very concerned about his feelings about the whole situation, and I love, I really love the unbroken shot of him running. It's a very, um, it's a very symbolic visual of him running away from his responsibilities. He sees his sister as a problem, and as his sister is using his apartment to have sex with his boss, not cool by the way. Um, but he's physically running away from her, running away from the situation, running away from his problems. And I thought that was a very cool cinematographic way to show that symbolism. Now, and then we get to the low point of the character, the very low point where um, he becomes, as he hasn't been able to really have coitus. He hasn't been able to have coitus for a while, and he decides to go out and try to get some, but he's very desperate about it. He's very desperate. I mean, it's his low point because he's going to seedier parts of the city, darker parts. He's hanging out in bars, and he gets a blowjob from a guy, makes out with a guy, and gets a blowjob from him. And you can see that it's the character low point because even like he just doesn't care at that point. He just wants he wants some form of sexual gratification, and he he just is distraught. Michael Fassbender is fantastic in this movie. He is fantastic. You can see the pain. You can see the distress. He is a victim to his own desires. He's not proud of his hypersexuality. He's not proud of it. he is he he see I mean, when during the three-way with the two prostitutes, his O face gave me a sense that he was, he's a slave. He's a slave who has no choice but to keep on attending to the hypersexual need. And then his sister tries to commit suicide by cutting her wrist, slitting her wrists, and then he manages to save her, get her to the hospital in time. But when he leaves, we see him walking in the rain, and he cries. He cries in the rain. He realizes that he's he basically left his sister to almost die just in order to achieve sexual gratification. And I mean, Carey Mulligan was pretty good. Was pretty good in the movie. She was all right. I mean, I don't really think of her as like one of the greatest actresses. I mean, she's good, but she's not amazing. She was pretty good in this movie. She has a nice body. I'll give her that. Um, they have a very weird relationship. I mean, it's not incest, but it's definitely weird, and it seems like it would be very uncomfortable because when she sneaks into she gets into his apartment without him knowing, and he thinks someone breaks in. She's taking a shower. He has a baseball bat. He breaks into the bathroom, and he sees her naked. I mean, if it were me and my sister, it would be a very weird situation where I would just be like, "Oh God," I would be very embarrassed and very awkward, and I would try to leave that room as possible. But they seem to carry on in the movie. They seem to carry on a casual conversation. It's like, "Oh, hey, sorry," you know. The cinematography was excellent. I love the shots of New York at night. With all, it was a very good combination of dark blue, very like night sky blue along the skyline in New York City with the lights of the skyscrapers. I thought that was very excellent. Uh, music, music was mostly classical music. Was pretty seemed very fitting. It seemed like very fitting for New York City. Um, I didn't like the part where she sings in a breathy voice of the song "New York, New York." That scene took way too long, but it was a moment of them communicating with each other as he actually does get emotional when she sings. And I mean I get that, but I mean the singing was her singing. She could have a nice singing voice, but don't be so breathy with that voice because that song took forever for her to sing. Um, Sex scenes, honestly I thought there was going to be more sex in this movie. I mean, all the hype that was brought up about this movie. I remember when this movie came out back in 2011, and it was like it was supposed to be really racy, really raunchy in regards to the sex scenes, but there weren't that many actually. I mean, there was like literally one, one and a half, three, two and a half, three, like around four maybe sex scenes in the entire movie, and that's pretty standard. I mean, they are pretty graphic for it to be not actually not that graphic. I mean, Lust Caution was way more graphic with their sex scenes. Um, I mean, it's a movie that does deserve to get an NC-17 rating, but it's not enough to be like all freaked out about it. It's sex. I mean, it's a normal human need, human condition. So I don't know why people were freaked out about this movie. Um, I I really liked it though. I thought it was very well done, very good, excellent cinematography, excellent directing, music, uh, acting was not I wouldn't say spot on, not Oscar worthy performances, but definitely noteworthy. Um, Dialogue, not much, not too much dialogue in this movie, but sometimes that's acceptable in some movies that and some art movies, like directors can get away with that sort of thing. Um, let's see, what else can I talk about this movie? The boss's character was a bit weird. David's boss in the movie, he was kind of weird, a little awkward. Like when he was trying to hit on to like three girls at a bar, like he was doing a really horrible job, and it just I guess that's just part of his character though. He was a bit annoying when he just kept trying to hit on Brandon's sister right in front of him, and he doesn't say a word about it. But and like I actually kind of like that scene a bit, even though it was weird and awkward. But I like it because you see the light hit the two of them as they're hitting it off, but you see Brandon sort of in the dark a little bit. That's what I noticed about the cinematography. It's like they're out in the light, they're having a good time, but he's just sort of a third wheel stuck in the dark, kind of. So I love the way that shot was set up. I also love one camera take shots as the running implied. I know I talked about that earlier, and um, this actually uh, makes me more anticipated to watch 12 Years a Slave because now I know what Steve McQueen's style is like. And I really love it. I love his style. I give this movie maybe like I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. That's a pretty high score for this movie. Nothing too. I mean, it's an art film. It's an art film. Nothing too revolutionary, but nothing too standard either. It seems like it's on its own. It's a movie that stands its own ground, um, but definitely worth seeing, worth watching, viewing, worth viewing, worth buying, worth studying it. This is a movie that you can study off of for like a film class or something. I totally can see this movie being taught to another generation of filmmakers. So, Shame. That's the movie Shame. And oh, Michael Fassbender's penis. He is very well endowed, actually. Um, I actually want to know. This call me weird, but I want to know what the measurement of that thing is, so I can compare it to my own. I want to see like where I am on a scale of 0 to Michael Fassbender. Um, but excellent movie, excellent, really good. I highly suggest it. 7.5 out of 10, and that was the movie Shame, and I am the Film Addict. Until next time.